These players will be given the green light here in just a moment, and round number 1 here from the Indianapolis Convention Center about to be underway.
And the format has slowed down enough, I think, where part of the reason for Bernal to play a strategy like this, 4 main deck copies of Mana Leak. A lot of people are just trying to resolve 4 mana spells nowadays without that much mana left over. And Mana Leak might have a chance to, sneak its way back in the format now if it stays that way. Good against Urza, good against Paradoxical Outcome.
Some things have certainly changed in this format. You mentioned Mana Leak. I know a lot of players have started actually putting Remand back in their deck, which is not a card you expect to see a ton of. And now, well, okay, this is a nice start. We have an Arkham's Astrolabe, an Everflowing Chalice for 0, a Mox Opal that allows the casting of Emry, Lurker of the Lock, which is a brand new card that needs to be killed, and Stoneforge Mystic is not going to kill it. So both these players have what I would say are their engines online. Bernal's been casting Stoneforge Mystic for the better part of a decade in all formats. He loves doing it in Legacy. He's doing it here in Modern, getting himself a Batterskull. Now here is the Merfolk Wizard. This card is, I would say it's a problem.
This is a hoot.
I would say this card is a problem. Sam Black, who is so good at brewing and identifying really good cards right away, I remember he immediately contacted me as soon as this card was previewed, and he's like, I think this is the best card in Modern, or certainly the best card in Throne of Eldraine in Modern. He's like, I need to write about this right away. He's identified that very quickly, and it's hard to argue with the results so far.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like a significantly more pushed Goblin Engineer.
Sure.
In a better color.
Are you? Well, how dare you?
So
blue better than red? Are you sure?
For this kind of nonsense, yes.
We have a Mox Amber that has now joined the battlefield. He already has enough mana to play Paradoxical Outcomes, so we might just see that right now. Oh boy. Yeah, there is Paradoxical Outcome. That'll be for 4?
It's for 5. It's picking up everything.
Oh, he's picking up everything. Well, pardon me. So I guess he'll get to draw 5 cards. This is the second turn, by the way.
Yeah.
Joe played a Stoneforge Mystic. He tapped out.
Got a Batterskull. Wait till we get to combat 2 turns from now.
Mox Amber, Mox Opal, they're back on the battlefield. Yes, wait till we get to 2 turns from now.
You wait.
He'll be down to 15.
I know.
Wow. And Joe will be at 24.
He will be up to 24.
Here's another Emry, going to turn over 4 cards. Saheeli and Urza among the cards that have been placed into the graveyard. Again, that Everflowing Chalice is for 0. Mox Amber is going to tap for a blue because of the legendary Emry on the battlefield. This,
I believe that's the Wishing Well.
That is the Witching Well.
Witching Well, excuse me.
Yes, Witching Well. That's a new one from Throne of Eldraine. We'll take a look at that here in just a moment.
My opponents have been casting that one into my Eidolons a lot lately.
Who's been winning those games?
I have.
Okay, fair.
I have.
Here's the Witching Well.
Allow me.
And there's the battlefield Scry 2, and you can sacrifice the Witching Well to draw 2 cards. A little more manipulation. Looks like Ben's going to just discard a Polluted Delta and pass the turn back. So got to draw a ton of cards, reload his hand.
A lot of mana.
Yep, has a lot of mana, and pass the turn back to Bernal, who will actually get to play another turn in this game. Flooded Strand is the land. He'll pass the turn up with the ability to activate Stoneforge Mystic to put a Batterskull on the battlefield or interact with his opponent ideally. This might be an Arkham's Astrolabe. It is. So Ben will draw a card. A battlefield full of artifacts and Emry. He'll tap 3 mana now. This is a Sai Master Thopterist that Ben is attempting to resolve. So we'll see how this goes. That will resolve. Now it's an island. Here's an artifact. It's an Astrolabe. So trigger the Sai.
Bernal letting all this resolve.
There's a Thopter.
No piece except maybe Sai worth fighting over here.
Mm-hmm. We'll get a Nick Miller Thopter onto the battlefield now. Nick Miller might get a lot of play this weekend.
Yeah.
Might get a lot of action on camera. Now it looks like Emry's going to return Engineered Explosives. Play that for 0. Get another Thopter. Now Sai's going to work. See what else Ben wants to do here, if anything. I mean, look, this is a lot to do through 3 turns.
But it's still, I mean, if all Wienburg can do is put some tokens onto the battlefield and draw some cards, it's possible that Bernal can actually battle through that a little bit with Batterskull plus some counter spells.
That's true.
Well, you know, Bernal is going to have a dominating advantage in combat. Now, of course, Wienburg, if that size stays on the battlefield, is going to have the ability to draw a lot of cards and find other stuff to do. But if all Wienburg can do is just cycle some artifacts and create some Thopters, that is going to take a really long time before that is concerning for Bernal. Batterskull erases that very easily.
It looks like right now the missing piece to the puzzle here for Ben is just actually Urza itself.
Right.
Yes. Once he's able to find that, yeah.
But it's possible, you know, it's not like Wienburg has a lot of extra mana to work with, and it's possible that Cryptic Command or Mana Leak might be able to fight over his remaining key cards.
Well, here's another artifact. Sai is going to generate a Thopter, and Arkham's Astrolabe will be placed on the stack. Can't imagine Bernal fighting over this, and he won't. So you see the stack of artifacts growing there. Ben's going to take a look at his graveyard, see what's going on down there. Now, one thing to remember here, partner, is a new card from Throne of Eldraine that's very powerful in Mystic Sanctuary, because it has the card type Island. It can be found via fetch land to put Paradoxical Outcome back on top of your deck if you'd like. Now, he has his Mystic Sanctuary in hand, and Ben's going to play that, and he's going to put Outcome back on top of the deck. One of the neat little interactions is if your opponent thought seizes you and takes your Paradoxical Outcome, you can just sack your fetch land, put it back on top of your deck.
Yeah.
Neat. Not sure that's supposed to be an island.
It's a really weird card to make that good.
Not sure that's supposed to be an island.
Cycle of innocuous commons with very little small effects and then just regrowth on one of them.
The Witching Well will be sacrificed. Ben's going to draw 2 cards. Now he's going to tap his Mox Opal, activate Emery, and replay. Oh, that's a cute interaction.
Yeah.
Play the Witching Well and Scry too. Sure.
Yeah, Wienburg can sit here and, you know, grind a lot of extra cards, try to never present anything that's good enough for Bernal to counter until he's ready to resolve multiple meaningful spells in one turn. Overpower all of Bernal's mana and other resources.
Are we doing little beatdowns in the air? Oh, yeah.
Let him know.
That's right. Teach him a lesson, Benny boy. Bernal going to fall a little bit lower. That's an Everflowing Chalice for 0. Make another Thopter. Ben does have copies of Engineer Explosives in hand, but he's not going to deploy them. We're going to head back over to Bernal. Bernal will draw a card. Just a Batterskull going on here. Joe's done nothing else of consequence. He'll attack. Ben's going to predictably block. Joe's going to gain 4 life. He'll go up to 26. And Joe will just simply pass the turn back over to Ben. So we head back over to Ben Wienburg. He's drawing another copy of Mox Hamburg. Again, the only piece of the puzzle it appears he's missing as he deploys a snow-covered island is Urza, Lord High Artificer. Does have a copy of Paradoxical Outcome in hand. And now here is Arkham's Astrolabe. So another Thopter and drawing a card. Mishra's Bauble will now join the fray. That's another Thopter. He'll activate that at some point, I'm sure.
So anytime, at this point, anytime Bernal drops the shields low enough where Wienburg doesn't have to worry about Cryptic Command, he could just be looking at Paradoxical Outcome. And so Bernal is probably going to have to just hold up a lot of mana, not really advance his board very much. And at this point, Wienburg's drawing enough cards that even just the Sai is going to be too much to overcome with the Batterskull.
Ben wanted to take a look at what Joe could draw. Joe said, I don't think so. I'm going to concede the game. So Ben Wienburg's going to win game number 1 here over Joseph Bernal. Urza Outcome very quickly up a game here over Esper Stoneblade. You can, of course, take a look at the deck list at home via Cardboard Live. We're going to take a look at the sideboards right now. We're going to start with Joe Bernal, who's got 4 copies of Mystical Dispute, 3 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Narset Parter of Veils, 2 Supreme Verdict, a Batterskull, and a Celestial Purge in his sideboard.
So the Mystical Disputes here seem really, really good. You know, Wienburg's key cards are blue, and so getting to be able to fight over those on the cheap seems great. I like the Narset in this matchup as well. Low opportunity cost, and it can be disruptive towards all the cycling that Wienburg does in some of the earlier turns. I could see trying to get over with Surgical Extraction too if you wanted to cut a lot of the slower creature removal that Bernal has in his main deck.
Other side of things here for Ben Wienburg. He's got 4 Thoughtseize, 3 Fatal Push, 2 Mystical Disputes of his own, pardon me, 2 Teferi Time Raveler, 2 Collective Brutality, and 2 Disdainful Stroke. Good options here for Ben.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the 4 copies of Thoughtseize, the 2 copies of Teferi Time Raveler, just good against Bernal's Stoneforge Mystics and reactive cards, and the 2 Mystical Disputes could be good here as well.
All right, well, these players are going to go to the drawing board here. Ben Wienburg very quickly up a game, and while they start working on their sideboards, we're going to get ready here for game number 2 as well. But before that, let's talk about the StarCityGames.com sale for the week. We've got hundreds of singles on sale through Monday, including Kitchen Finks. I'm sure a card you're a really big fan of.
The Finks stinks.
Yes, big fan. Command Tower, Vandal Blast. Have you ever cast that one?
I don't think so.
Okay. And then Atraxa, Praetor's Voice, a commander staple. Go to StarCityGames.com/sales where you can find more information about this. Of course, we'll have a new Magic the Gathering sale for you starting at 11 a.m. East Coast time on Monday. So you get this one until 10:59 East Coast time on that same Monday. Again, go to StarCityGames.com/sale. Bookmark that page because it changes every single week. Last week in Philadelphia, we saw the team of Daryl Ayers, Jonathan Rossum, and Matthew Dilks hoist the trophies, plural, in our Team Constructed Open. Throne of Eldraine release weekend, we shall say. And now we're preparing to watch some modern action here. This Urza Outcome deck, it has been worked on and iterated on quite a bit on Magic Online by many great players, including the incredibly powerful Canister, Peter Glogowski. And this deck, look, I don't know if this is its final form. We saw Ironworks go through a lot of shifts before it became the dominant force, but you saw along the way, you knew that Ironworks was going to be a really good to great deck. This trajectory feels somewhat similar there, Patrick.
Yeah, and it's the combination of how fast it is and how robust it is. You saw Wienburg there get off to an extremely explosive start. Bernal had the shields up, you assume, to be able to interact with one more key card. A lot of combo decks in that spot would flood out or not really have a second angle of attack, and Wienburg never had to commit a second meaningful card to be able to accrue an overwhelming advantage. And I think that's really emblematic of the way in which this deck is powerful. It isn't just the ability to have busted first and second turns, which Wienburg also did in that game, but the ability to play a slower game against resistance and not have to just walk face first into your opponent's shatters and counter spells.
Yeah. One thing that makes this deck really difficult too is that, you know, the presence of such cards as Collector Oof and Stony Silence, they really don't do anything against you.
Yeah, they're pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah.
It isn't game over by itself. You back up a Collector Oof with some discard or a fast clock, that can be good enough. But the idea that you know, even Ironworks, for example, a lot of times that deck just got KO'd by a Stony Silence. Hogak, go back a couple of months. Leyline of the Void, you know, pretty obviously a problematic card. There isn't the same single card that totally warps the game around it sort of option to fight Urza Outcome. It's got to be a multi-dimensional sort of thing, and usually involves shortening the length of the game, and Bernal's deck is not really equipped to do that.
So, you know, in that particular game, we saw Joe play a Stoneforge Mystic, a Battered Skull, really didn't interact past that. Don't know if his draw was especially bad or if he just did not have much interaction, but, you know, he's got to sideboard some of these cards out that just aren't going to be effective. You know, I'm sure your Fatal Pushes of the world, I mean, they kill things, yes, but it doesn't feel like those are effective, but you probably have to keep those in, well, I guess. I'm just not really sure what the approach is to try to beat Ben, because Ben sees so many cards per game.
And Bernal's removal in the main deck, just 4 copies of Fatal Push, no copies of Path to Exile, which means it's really burdensome for him to remove creatures that cost 3 or more early on in the game. Mm-hmm. He really only has his fetch lands, I believe 8 copies here. Yeah, 8 copies of fetch lands to be able to interact early with a 3 or 4 mana creature. The hope is, you know, that you have counter spells to slow the game down, and then you can line up your Fatal Pushes. Only have to line up against 1s and 2s, but Wienburg's kind of cheating the system here by presenting a 3-mana creature on the first turn. Really taxes Bernal's ability to remove it. He's not that well equipped to do it, and as you saw, an unchecked Emery there accrues a massive advantage, even if it isn't really paired with any sort of combo piece.
And Joe going to very quickly take a mulligan here, so he'll be employing the new London mulligan strategy in just a moment. Ben Wienburg going to take a look at his hand. He'll send it back as well, so both these players going to shuffle and take a look at 7 new cards again, and we'll see if they're able to keep those and then put a card to the bottom. In the meantime, we want to very quickly talk about the StarCityGames.com newsletter, which is your source for Magic the Gathering news. Look at that handsome beast there.
Brian Gottlieb.
You better believe it. You want to tell him about this, partner?
Well, this is your source for Magic the Gathering news, curated by the man himself, Cedric Phillips.
Yes, hello.
Contains a lot, including highlights from some of SCG's best articles, upcoming SCG Tour dates and locations. Are you interested in finding an IQ or a game night near you? You can do that in the newsletter as well. And the best of all, signing up is free over at go.starcitygames.com/newsletter. Star City Games game nights near you is...
That's what they are.
Yeah, we might want to reword that a little bit to avoid Star City Games
That's
game
nice
nights.
that you're noticing this only 3 years in of doing this promotion.
Well, so what I do
That's
is
good.
I bundle, because I think it's awkward to say, find a Star City Games invitational qualifier near you, find a Star City Games game night near you. I've always bundled that into one. Hey, are you looking for the events that we have, such as IQs and game nights? You can find that here as well.
Yeah.
I hadn't actually read Star City Games game nights.
Again, in year 3 of doing the graphic.
Don't do what Donnie Don't does.
You have realized it right now. That's really, really good. Watery Grave going to be found here for Joe on Ben's end step after Ben draws a card with the incredibly powerful Arkham Astrolabe. Back to Joe we go. Another Delta. We pass the turn back over to Ben. Ben's draw not as explosive this time around. He'll sacrifice a Delta of his own, fall down to at least 19. This is a deck that does splash colors of mana. There's a Hollowed Fountain and a Watery Grave in here, but more often than not, you're just going to be digging up those snow-covered islands, of which there are 7.
Yeah, the Astrolabe does a lot of fixing here as well, so you don't have to bend over backwards playing a bunch of Ravnica duels for your sideboard cards.
As you can see, Emery was very difficult to cast this game.
It's very really weird to put Affinity for Artifacts on a 3-mana card. It's like just not that hard to cast a 3-mana card.
Just extremely hard to cast. That's going to resolve. Saheeli, Mox Amber, Arkham's Astrolabe, and Polluted Delta to the graveyard. I would kill that thing.
Yep.
Can't let that creature live.
And Bernal here with the combo of Polluted Delta and potentially Fatal Push here. Like I said, not easy for him to remove these 3 and 4 mana creatures, but he's got his 1-2 punch to do with this game.
Well, there's the push. That'll take care of the Emery with a little revolt action, of course, thanks to the Polluted Delta being sacrificed. We head back over to Bernal now for his 3rd turn of the game. He's kept the battlefield clear thus far, but again, we're at the early stages of this 2nd game. We'll see what comes next here for the Chicago native. He'll just pass the turn back with no 3rd land. Never good news. That's an island. This is a Sai, Master Thopterist, here for Ben. The difficult thing here for Joe is he needs to stop basically every creature that Ben casts. Emery, you got to kill. Sai, as we saw last game, you got to kill. And then of Urza, we obviously know you have to kill.
And in some cases, like Urza, maybe even killing it isn't enough. It's got to be a counter spell. You can't even let it enter the battlefield.
Mystical Dispute was the spell played on that Sai. That's a new one as well, and certainly a good one, as Joe drew and played a Swamp before passing the turn. Mystic Sanctuary is going to come down here for Ben. Doesn't get any value this time around, and there's an Engineer Explosives, it looks like, for 0. That's an interesting line of play here.
So, sort of signaling an outcome here.
Must be. And you do see the Mystical Dispute. 3 mana, this spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a blue spell, counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. So a good hoser for blue. Not exactly Gainsay, but a little different. Cheaper, might be better than Gainsay.
I think for more powerful formats, it is.
Yeah.
One mana leak is just so, I think, quite a bit better than Counterspell, and you have the out of being able to play on other stuff for 3 mana. Not great to do that, but Gainsay can't do that at all.
Yep. Ben quickly draws and passes the turn back, so we head back over to Joe, who will draw, play a land, and pass the turn back. And now here's Paradoxical Outcome on the end step. We will see if this will resolve. It'll be for 2 if it does, to get back the Astrolabe and the Explosives, and this will allow Ben to draw 2 cards. So 1 Paradoxical Outcome has resolved. And Joe looks like he has a Surgical Extraction in hand, so he's going to be targeting, I have to imagine, Paradoxical Outcome.
Yep, and you know, this is sort of the game plan you'd like to see here from Bernal of pick apart the key pieces and leave Wienburg with a deck with a bunch of Cyclers and maybe a Planeswalker or 2.
You see the hand here for Ben. It's a proxied Nexus of Fate that he did pull out of his deck box and show Joe that he has, along with a Mystical Dispute and Urza, an Arkham's Astrolabe, and that Engineer Explosives. Those 2 artifacts, of course, coming back from the Paradoxical Outcomes, which are now being removed from Ben's deck via the Surgical Extraction. Joe paying 2 life to pay for that Surgical Extraction. You know, you and I have obviously been covering the SCG Tour for about 7 years now, most of this decade, and Modern has taken a lot of different shapes over our years of covering this format. Not sure I've seen one like this. I mean, this is, we're in 4 mana spell territory a lot of the time, but there's a lot of cheating of these 4 mana spells.
Yeah, I mean, the Modern Horizons came with a lot of power for more expensive cards. The best cheap card in the set, Arkham's Astrolabe, is much more about setting up a longer game than it is about killing someone on the 3rd turn. Mm-hmm. And we've seen the format noticeably slow down as a result.
Got to play that Astrolabe with anything but that Mystic Sanctuary, and Ben will do that, so he'll draw a card. It looks like he may have picked up a copy of Flooded Strand. And Joe with a wall of mana up, a lot of cards in hand, but he isn't really doing much of anything right now. Ben's going to sacrifice this Flooded Strand. Again, we'll see what land he wants to go get. Looks like he'll just get another snow-covered island. And now this will be another copy of Emery. Will Joe fight over this?
Not a bad spot for Mystic Dispute, because you're not going to get a whole lot more out of it than here as this game goes longer and longer.
Now, it is worth noting Ben has a Mystic Dispute of his own in hand, so he can fight a little bit of a counterspell war. And Joe's definitely got quite a bit to think about. He'll start by sacrificing the Delta. That's a snow-covered island.
And looking through Wienburg's deck there, it looks as though he had not brought in the Thoughtseizes.
Here's Cryptic Command with a Plains available. Yep, and Ben's going to fight back with his copy of Mystical Dispute. So Command is countered. Now we'll mill a couple of cards. Astrolabes, Saheeli, and an island among them, and now we head back over to Bernal. So Bernal knew about the Mystical Dispute that Ben had in hand, so he knew that exchange was going to occur. So now what's his plan moving forward, we'll have to see, because we are back to him. And I have to imagine he's got a way to kill this powerful legendary creature, or at least he better. That's a Stoneforge Mystic. That's a Batterskull. And he'll pass the turn back, so no answer to Emery. And the Merfolk is still on the battlefield, ready to get some work done, start returning some artifacts. Looks like Ben's going to start with Saheeli, however. Joe looks like he may have a Mana Leak or Drown in the Lock.
Yeah, Drown in the Lock.
Okay. So Drown the Lock will take care of that. Emery's going to return Astrolabe. Ben will cast Astrolabe. He'll draw a card.
If it's your turn, finish your turn. You have 5 additional turns between you to finish your match. Once again, open players.
We'll head back over to Joe.
Round number 1.
Snow-covered island there, and Joe will very quickly pass the turn back over to Ben. There you do see Drown in the Lock, a card that Joe did play last turn. This is a new one as well. Blue and black, you get to choose one of these. Counter target spell will convert a mana cost less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard, which is the mode he did choose. But sometimes he'll choose the other one, which is destroy target creature with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. Pretty powerful Dimir instant here.
Yeah, very flexible and convenient that the bottom mode can basically always get an Emery.
Here is Urza. Cryptic Command looking to take care of that. That's the one card you cannot let resolve.
No.
Can't happen.
Not even, you can, may not even allow it on the battlefield for a turn.
Yep. It's too powerful. Cryptic Command, counter, and draw will take care of that. Emery's going to return Astrolabe, it looks like. He'll cast that and draw a card. So easy for Wienburg to get through his deck.
Yep, and he can play the game both ways. He can combo out, or he can just grind with all of his extra cards.
Stoneforge's going to put Batterskull onto the battlefield now. So there's your Germ token. Alex Vistecki, former Invitational champion, is in the house. We head back over to Bernal. Bernal will draw a card. It's beatdowns here with both. So Bernal will deal 5, he'll gain 4. He'll take the lead life total wise. Doesn't mean he's ahead in the game actually, but as far as life total is concerned, I believe he should be taking the lead now.
Down to just 2 cards in hand.
Might be down to 1 in just a second. You see the life total is now 19 to 13. Surgical Extraction. I think Urza's a good choice. That's going to bite the dust.
Yep, and just trying to run Wienburg out of cards that he can actually win the game with here.
Urza, now gone along with Paradoxical Outcome. Ben going to show his graveyard, say I don't have any more of those in there, so you can grab the other 3 from my deck. You see Ben's hand there of Mox Opal and Nexus of Fate.
So what does he actually have left in his deck he's capable of winning a game with?
Well, that's the big question. Looks like there may be more copies of Psy.
Yeah. Bernal doing a check here of just what is actually left in your deck.
Yep.
Urza's gone. Outcome's gone. The Saheeli got countered. And it's possible that Bernal can just surgical and counter enough relevant cards that there isn't anything left to win with.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to draw cards in this deck. There's a lot of artifacts, so on and so forth. But as far as actual ways to win the game, Joe's done a nice job of taking care of a decent amount of them so far. And some have been milled from the Emerys. We can't forget about that, too. So Joe's going to take a look at the graveyard here, get a snapshot of that.
Yeah, for example, I think Bernal's considering, well, if I Snapcaster Surgical and take care of the Psy, the Saheeli, is that just it?
It's either Psy or Saheeli, I think. Yeah, he's going to take care of the Psys. And Joe's working with such good information on what Ben has left in his deck. Ben might take a look here. It's possible Ben takes a look and concedes.
Yeah. He might not have anything left he can win with.
And just say, I don't really have anything else to win with, so we'll have to see here. Well, Ben's going to sacrifice, get a basic island. Now remember, Ben does have his copy of Nexus of Fate in hand, and along with the Mox Opal. Joe's cardless. We head back over to Ben. He's got free reign to do whatever he wants this turn. So he draws a card for the turn and draws a card for the bobble. Now there's a Mox. There's a Delta. Emery. Bobble someone. Maybe. Bobble himself. Maybe try to control his draw, given that he has got the fetch land on the battlefield. This is 5 mana. This is going to be Nexus of Fate. All right.
So I guess the way out of this is that Wienburg needs to set an Engineer Explosives to 5, which he can do through the Astrolabes. Set 1 to 2, and take infinite turns.
Well, setting it to 5, Joe can return it, his Batter Skull.
Right,
but he can't redeploy.
I'm saying he needs to do this in the process of taking infinite turns.
Sure.
That's, I guess, the way to get out of this.
Okay, well, there's a way.
Yeah. But he has to remove both blockers and take infinite turns.
Yep.
And he can, by picking with the 3 Astrolabes and any other Astrolabe or dual land, that's the path to get to an Explosives to 5. Explosives to 2 is not hard, of course.
He's got a Mox Amber in hand, a Mystical Dispute, all that jazz, but we're going to head back over to Joe. Joe's going to give beatdowns here with Snapcaster, Stoneforge, and the Batter Skull. So this is an attack for 7. Ben will draw. These at 5. Bobble. Now if you're Ben, you can crack your Explosives for 0. It'll blow up your Mox Opal. It won't blow up your Astrolabes.
Get a reprieve from the Germ for a turn?
Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps that's the plan. You see Emery there. Choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. So any artifact, huh? Sure. Here come those beatdowns. Ben's of course, going to use his bobbles before blowing up this Explosives. He'll sacrifice the fetch land. Doesn't like what he saw. Snow-covered island. So he falls down to 4. He'll sacrifice this bobble. Then he'll use Explosives, which will blow up the Germ token, presumably. Okay. Ben's going to fall down to 1. So now he'll draw a couple of cards. 2, and then 1 for the turn. 2 bobbles, and then a draw step. Note that because he is at 1, he cannot fetch, and he will concede the game. So Joseph Bernal is going to win game number 2 there off the back of some very timely surgical extractions. Bernal and Wienburg going to get ready for a 3rd and final one. The tenor of this matchup, a little bit strange.
Yep, but Bernal there with surgical extraction able to shrink Wienburg's deck out of almost all of its relevant cards and tighten up the length of the game. 2 with Batter Skull there, and Wienburg not able to cobble together a complicated backdoor combo kill before finished off by the Batter Skull.
Well, these players are going to shuffle up here and get ready for game number 3. One of our final ones here of round at number 1. A good matchup to be sure. And we might be seeing more of this at the Players' Championship a little bit later this year.
It's been a while, but I feel like I've seen this movie before. Pass the turn back. Is it a top deck?
Oh it's my God. Pendelhaven. Pump and attack? Is this real? Oh my God. Oh no.
December 13th through the 15th at the Star City Game Center in Roanoke, Virginia. It'll be the StarCityGames.com Players Championship. Haven't done that one in a couple of years. Joe Lissette, your defending champion. We'll see if he can go back-to-back, even though it's not exactly back-to-back years, but back-to-back Players Championships. He's already been joined by a handful of players. Abe Corrigan, Oliver Tomiko, Matthew Dilks, and our Season 1 Invitational champion, Colin Roundtree. We're going to have to work on figuring out who the rest of the players that'll be joining Joe will be, but that's what our Season 2 Invitational is for, along with everything else that's happening at SCGCon Winter a little bit later this year. You know what? Let's see if Joe still got it. Haven't seen Joe in a hot minute. Has he still got it?
He played in Philadelphia, right?
I think so.
I don't know who the squad was.
Me either. I know they didn't win.
I know they didn't win.
Tell you that much. You know how many top 8s Matthew Dilks has this year?
I'm going to guess 5.
9. Is that right, Miller? Dilks, how many top 8s? 9 this year?
I think it's only 8.
It's only 8, says Nick. Nick says only 8 right now.
It's still quite a bit.
Pretty good. Pretty good Magic player, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good player. He decided to take the weekend off.
Good for him.
Yeah. Would have been a good time to play Amulet. I mean, it's always a good time for him to play Amulet.
It's cold drive, though.
It's a long drive, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe from Toronto. What do you think the drive is there? Drive time.
I'll guess 10 hours.
10 hours he sets the line at, folks.
Probably more. That's probably an undershoot, but I'll stick with it.
I'm gonna do a quick check via the Apple Map. See if I can. I opened the wrong one. I have Google Maps and Apple Maps.
I think that was a low ball bid, but we'll find out in a second.
Toronto to Indianapolis drive. Let's Google that. You say 10 hours?
Yeah, but I think that's low.
Okay. Working on it. Drive time. 8.
8. Oh, okay.
No excuse not to be here.
Yeah.
No, 8 hours?
8's a ton of time
That's
to get in a car.
an easy drive, Dilks.
A smooth 8.
Yeah, that's easy. I'm a little disappointed now. You get to cut right through Detroit, right on down to Indy. That's nothing. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but yeah, that's nothing.
I've done more for less.
I've done way more for less.
Yeah.
Way more. When I was in college, I'll never forget the worst decision I made. Me, Jerry. There may have been. Oh, and no, I don't remember. It was definitely me and Jerry, and then someone else was probably in the car. Jerry was driving. We did Indy to PTQ in St. Louis, drove 4.5 hours from Indy.
Okay.
And then we did, that was a Saturday PTQ, and then there was a Sunday PTQ in, I think it was Wichita, Kansas.
Ooh.
I'm almost positive it was Wichita. And then obviously, after the PTQ is done, we got to drive it. We got to go all the way back.
Yeah.
All the way.
New Jersey to Tampa for a Grand Prix was my longest one. That not good.
Yeah, that's unfathomable.
And New Jersey to Toronto to pick up people. Toronto to Montreal for a PTQ. Drive back to Toronto, drop off car mates, drive back to New Jersey.
Bro, that's a lot.
Lost in the top 4.
Of course you didn't win it. Of course, why would you win the tournament? Max Payne.
Received 1 booster box.
Nice.
Of
oh no, this was a long time ago.
Scourge.
I hope you got some zombie cutthroats, bro. I hope you got some cutthroats. What was the best card in that set? There's like decrees,
like
right?
for money.
Yeah,
for money purposes.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is now. Probably some commander card.
Yeah, for sure.
Back in the day, yeah, maybe a decree.
Yeah. Decree of Justice, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
Stifle.
Stifle, maybe. Yeah.
Ben gonna fire off a Thoughtseize now. I don't think he sideboarded these in game number 2, but he's got some now.
Then it turned out that Bernal had cards that were good, and so in comes the Thoughtseize.
So bring in the busted discard spell. Joe's hand right now, there's a Draw on the Lock, a Snapcaster Mage. Looks like a Mystical Dispute, 2 Snapcaster Mages actually. A couple of lands here as well. So Ben getting a good look at it before making his selection. Ben's start was very modest, with just an Arkham's Astrolabe off of a snow-covered island. A Water Grave that entered the battlefield tapped, and a Polluted Delta as well. So the Thoughtseize is going to take something here momentarily. And it will select the Mystical Dispute. Now, a Mox. And just a passing of the turn. We go back over to Joe. Now, do remember, Mystical Dispute may be an interesting selection here insofar as Snapcaster Mage can still Snapcaster that back very easily.
Yeah, it might be a signal here that Wienburg thinks he can resolve 2 spells in 1 turn.
Sure. We'll go back to Ben. Flooded Strand the draw. There's an Explosives. There's a Flooded Strand. He'll sacrifice that. Snow-covered island on the way, I'm sure. He'll sacrifice this fetch land as well. Another snow-covered island.
Could have put a Thoughtseize on top. Elects not to.
I'm curious what his plan is with these fetch lands, because you mentioned he could have put a Thoughtseize on top and chose not to. That also means that the paradoxical outcome he's about to play, or is considering playing, he could have fetched to put one on top as well if this gets countered, and he chose not to. And it looks like he wants to play Urza. There's your Snapcaster Mage. None of this can come as a surprise to Ben. He knows Joe's hand. Mystical Dispute. All right, so we're going to dispute back? Sure.
Right, and this is the 2 spells in 1 turn
Yes.
thing that Wienburg was trying to set up.
So now Urza is on the battlefield. There should be a construct that'll be joining it here in just a moment, so long as Ben remembers the trigger. There is your construct. Matthias Hunt joining the fray. And that construct right now is a 1, 2, 3, 4 power creature. But more importantly, that means that Urza is on the battlefield and active. And if you're Joseph Bernal, you have to kill this right away. So, Drown the Lock will take care of that. Now we head back over to Wienburg. Ben will draw.
Does Wienburg think this is a good spot to outcome?
He's going to give it a shot. It'll be for 3.
You know, you don't want to do this when Bernal has 4 mana available next turn, so you're going to do it, might as well do it now.
So, paradoxical outcome will resolve. Now, you'll get an Astrolabe. Draw a card. Pithing Needle, the card that has been drawn. There's a Mishra's Bauble, pardon me. Here's a Mox Opal. That can tap for mana. I mean, Metalcraft, tough to achieve.
Yes.
Tough.
Deck doesn't even bother with Darksteel Citadel. Could not be bothered.
Does not need it. Needle's going to come down. Joe's going to sacrifice his Delta in response. We'll prepare to see what Ben is going to name with this, assuming the artifact does resolve. I'd be shocked if it doesn't. Jace the Mind Sculptor, the name there for the Pithing Needle. A Joe Bernal staple.
Don't know if it's in his hand, but you can be sure it's in the deck.
And as you can confirm that on Cardboard Live with the deck list that they provided for you, we can confirm it as well. 3 copies of Jace the Mind Sculptor in Joe's main deck. I have to imagine there's at least 1 left after sideboard. As now here comes that construct token into the red zone. It's a 6/6, so it's a real clock as we head back over to Joseph Bernal. Bernal in some trouble right now. There's Snapcaster Mage. This is Drown the Lock. That will take care of the construct token. There's a Flooded Strand and pass the turn back. Looks like Island is the top card of Joe's deck. Didn't get a great look.
I think it was a mana leak.
Okay, fair enough.
But at least for the time being, it looks like Bernal has fended off everything.
Well, can Ben take advantage? This is a sigh, so the answer is yes. Astrolabe will come down, trigger the Psy, and of course draw a card. Thopter on the battlefield. Saheeli, not Rai, pardon me. Saheeli Sublime Artificer was the draw. Ben, thinking about that Flooded Strand.
Yeah, I don't know if they're saying if he's already played his land for the turn or not.
That is kind of a question here.
So I know that Joe missed one land drop at least. He didn't have land number 3.
I think that was last game. I don't think that was this game.
Oh no, yeah, you're right.
That was last game.
Yep, that was last game. Sorry.
So yeah, Ben's just going to sacrifice his Delta. There's Godless Shrine. Ben is going to sacrifice 2 artifacts to draw a card there with Psy. Sacrifice the Astrolabe and the Overflowing Chalice. 3 mana now. He'll go to Saheeli.
Now open with Teferi because I think he knows Bernal's top card is Mana Leak.
Oh, that's,
so
yeah.
force the issue here.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then all Bernal's counter spells are just off for the rest of the game.
Yep. Free reign. Well, that's big trouble for Joe. There's Flooded Strand, so now he's got his land. Now I think we'll see Saheeli. These 3 mana Planeswalkers, I'll tell you what. They are pretty darn good. Sacrifice now. Get an island with the Flooded Strand.
Yeah, you've really got to see Wienburg kind of do it on both fronts. You know, the fast combo and then the slow grind.
All right. Draw a card, make a Thopter. There's Saheeli. So now we're starting to make a bunch of different tokens, of Thopters and servos with the artifacts that are being played.
And Bernal's deck cannot really play catch up from this spot.
Not at all, really. There's Neverflowing Chalice. More servos and Thopters, and he'll extend the hand. Ben Wienburg going to win this game and match over Joe Bernal. 2-1. Urza Outcome will win this one over Esper Stoneblade. Not the first time, well, I suppose it is the first time we've seen Urza Outcome this weekend, but I've got a feeling there, partner, it will not be the last.